So first of all, let me say good morning and welcome to the final OceanSET annual report on the status of ocean energy in Europe. My name is Gianmaria Sannino. I'm from ENEA, the Italian National Agency for New Technology, Energy and Sustainable Development. And actually, I will share this webinar. Maybe we can just wait a couple of seconds. Now we are reaching 60 people already connected to this webinar. And let me start just my very quick presentation about the OceanSET project and more broadly the SET plan initiative, European initiative. Okay, do you see my screen? Rachel, can you see my presentation?
Yes, yeah.
Good. So I think that we can start. So again, this webinar is going to give you the last results about the status of the ocean energy all around Europe. And as you know, all these information have been gathered by this project, this European project, this OceanSET. The presentation that will be given today are from Rachel Power from SEAI, from Ireland, and from Ana Andrade from DGEG from Portugal. So they will give you all the most detailed information about technology development and also a national and international project about ocean energy in Europe. But let me just give you very a brief overview of why OceanSET has been initialized by the Commission in 2019. Actually, the OceanSET project is supporting since to 2019 the implementation working group on ocean energy of the European Commission, the SET plan European Commission. So the SET plan is the strategic energy technological plan of the Commission. So it's a sort of technological pillar for Europe just to set the next, let's say, energy technology to produce energy. And you know how important it is now to be, able to produce energy and energy in a renewable way. And among all the renewable, let's say, that the Commission has recognized, there's also ocean energy. This is why we are here today, because ocean energy is something that is the Commission is interested in. But just to give you an overview about the implementation working group, Ocean Energy, let me say that in 2018, actually, the main energy stakeholders, the stakeholders interested in ocean energy and most of the European member states reached an agreement on common objective on the ocean energy sector. These are the objects. So to bring the ocean energy to commercial development, to drive down the levelized cost of energy, to maintain and grow the European leadership position in ocean energy, and also to improve the European industrial technological base, creating economic growth and job, just around the ocean energy sector. How to reach these, let's say, very challenging objectives. Also trying to have in mind some very specific targets. The targets are, again, very challenging and have been also set by the Commission in the last months. So the Commission is looking for 100 megawatts of deployed wave and tidal capacity in the European waters by 2025, and around 1 gigawatts of deployed wave and tidal capacity in the European waters by 2030. So actually it's the other round away. So 2000 and yeah, no, it's correct. While the levelized cost of energy is again very challenging, because we should reach 0.1 euro per kilowatt hour in 2030, coming from the tidal energy. And for the wave energy, we have the same target, but 5 years later, so in 2035. So these are the main, let's say, the main objective of the European Commission. But to turn this, let's say, aspiration in operational action, in 2017 was created by the Commission and the working group that was composed by focal point representative of the main members, European member states, the European Commission, and the main ocean energy stakeholders. Here you see the list of the member states. Now we have 12 member states plus Norway and UK, and the working group is also composed of the main ocean energy stakeholders: Ocean Energy Europe, European Energy Research Alliance, the ATIP, so the technological platform for the ocean energy, and of course Gianmaria, DG Energy, and GRC. So, and I mean, since 2021, the implementation working group is chaired by me and by Tim Hurst from with Energy Scotland. So just to conclude, let me say that the implementation plan, so the implementation working group has set forward 2 implementation plans. So the last one was just published a few months ago by the Commission, and in this implementation plan, we have identified a number of technical and political action that are in line with the most recent EU policy and also the most recent European research agenda about ocean energy. In particular, with the European strategy on offshore renewable energy and the strategic research agenda for ocean energy that was put forward by the ATIP. So what are the main focus of this implementation working group? So the main actions, let's say, are coordination, just to make a stronger coordination between member state and regions to share and track critical information annually that will demonstrate a clear development of ocean energy technology. Collaboration between member state and European Commission to ensure the effective use and appropriate blending, if possible, of course, funding to drive large-scale deployment, and the need for an annual monitoring of progresses, with the progress review carried out at the end of each phase to determine the go, no-go to the next phase. So most of these actions have been supported since 2019 by the OceanSET H2020 project. So this is why we have this project. This project is supporting the work of the implementation working group. So every year, the OceanSET project and the partners of this project are working together to get the most, let's say, reliable and new information about what the single member states are doing for the ocean energy. The project is a coordinated and support action. Actually, the project is going to end in the next 2 weeks. So this is our last workshop. And just to give you a very quick overview, because the other 2 presentations will go more deep inside these numbers. These are, for example, the number of projects that OceanSET have identified during this last 3 years, between 2019 and 2020. So you see that from in the last 3 years, actually, there's been an increase of projects about ocean energy. So this is a good news. This means that Europe is pushing a lot on the ocean energy sector, and these numbers are just saying that we are the top in the world about ocean energy. So, but just to know more about the project that are, I mean, around the ocean energy in Europe. So I give the floor to my two colleagues, Rachel Power and Ana Andrade, to go more deep inside these these numbers, let's say. So we will start with Rachel Power from SEAI, and she's going to give us a review of the result of the third annual member state survey. So Rachel, the floor is yours. Just before to give you the floor, I just said to the people that during our presentation you can put your questions in the chat, and I will just organize your questions at the end of the two presentation to open the Q&A session. So now the floor is yours. Okay.
Thanks, Gianmaria.
Okay. There's a lot of people now. I have just to find your name. Okay, I see your name. Now you have the floor.
Great. Okay. And you might just tell me there, Gianmaria, if you can see my screen okay? Yep.
Yes,
brilliant.
I see your screen.
Great. I'm just going to slightly change my screen view here so that I can see things a little clearer. Okay, here we go. So hi everyone, and thanks for joining us this morning. It's really great to have a good turnout, and we're delighted to see you here. My name is Rachel Power, as Gianmaria said, and I'm with the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. So I'll be bringing you through the details of the member state survey for the third year of OceanSET. Gianmaria was explaining what the OceanSET project does. We're 9 partners on the project, and we have 4 work package leaders. So helping us to do this data and analysis for the third and final year of the project were Wave Energy Scotland, who helped put together some of the financial details of the member state survey, DGEG in Portugal, and my colleague Ana, who will be speaking with us shortly, and for the communication side, France Energy Marine, who just this morning put the annual report online on oceanset.eu, where you can get a copy of all of the information we'll be talking about this morning, and in more detail and with some narrative as well. So every year we look for information on the ocean energy sector in Europe, and we're looking for specific types of information. So for the member state survey, what we're looking for is some general information about the state of the sector in Europe in a given year. That information can be around policy or revenue support. And then we also look for financial and environmental information and technical information as well, where we go to developers looking for data. And that technical information can be things like CapEx, OpEx, LCOE. The survey is broken into 2 parts. The member state survey is section 1 of the survey, and that is looking for high-level information on the sector. And the developers survey, then section 2 of the survey, goes out to projects and developers that the member states have identified for us as being TRL 7 or above. And when we put all of the information that we gather together, we present that in the annual report then for the European Commission, and it helps to inform the European Commission and inform some of their decision making around this sector. Gianmaria was showing us there the key findings over 3 years, and we have the key findings now for 2020 as well. So 14 member states, all 14 member states of the IWG responded this year. We had 16 responses in total because we got 3 from the UK. UK was England, Scotland and Wales. 141 projects were reported by member states this year, and they reported a public funding of around 28.7 million euro. 7 member states said that they had a dedicated ocean energy budget, and 10 said that they were funding ocean energy programs. An additional 1 actually reported that they were funding TRL 7 and above projects. So that brought that total up to 11. There were 11 member states as well who had test site facilities, and 8 said that they had an ocean energy policy. In section 2 of the survey, the developer survey, we found 34 projects reported as being at TRL 7 or above. There are more wave projects than tidal, And there didn't seem to be a technology front-runner for wave. There were a couple of technologies, including point absorber, attenuator, and oscillating water column. But then in tidal, there were mainly horizontal axis turbine and tidal kite. And you can see there some of the key findings around CapEx, OpEx, and the annual availability of for prototypes. But Anna will go into this section in a lot more detail in a couple of moments. So this is the project grant aid funding cost for 2020. The total project cost that was reported to us from member states was just over €500 million, and that was made up of grant aid of 334 million and applicant to private funding contribution of 162. There was kind of rounding up and down, that's why the 507 million. And then if we look right across the 141 projects that were reported to us, the average duration of those projects was just over 2.5 years, a little longer for tidal than for wave. A lot of the tidal projects tended to start around stage 2 with the intention of finishing around stage 3, and tidal would start a little later around stage 3, finishing up around 4, but there was an uplift of 1 right across. This then is the cumulative member state budget and spend for 2020. So 28.7 roughly was the budget, and the spend around 30.91. And you can see there that 58% of that spend was going on wave projects, 20 on tidal. There's just a quick table there as well of the breakdown of projects over TRL, lower TRLs, higher TRLs, unknowns across wave, tidal, and ocean. We think though that the budget and spend figures this year are probably an underestimate, because some member states either told us they had insufficient data this year on the budget and spend, or they told us that ocean energy was part of an overall renewables budget, and they couldn't see in that what the budget for OE was. So it's likely that the budget and spend here is higher in reality. We can also look at the TRL 7 and above projects. So in OceanSET, we're particularly interested in these higher level TRL projects. And when we break that down, we could see that, as we saw on the table, about 17 wave or 50%, 12 tidal. And we can break that down further into whole system, subsystem, and support. So around 10 whole system wave projects and around 6 whole system tidal projects. No whole system in ocean, which would be expected, as that's more sort of support projects would be in the ocean category. So we look at qualitative results as well, and we asked about funding supports for national and regional programs to support ocean energy. 10 member states told us that they had funding supports. 3 said that they didn't. They were Belgium, Finland, and Norway. They said that they had no budget or policy to report for 2020, and then Cyprus didn't answer this particular question. And then we started to ask some questions as well around policy mechanisms, but comparing with the last year of the report for 2019, and no major changes were compared there. Where no major changes were reported there. 2 member states told us in 2019 that they had a dedicated ocean energy policy, and 7 said that they had a general renewable policy that included OE. The 2 that said they had a dedicated policy last year were Ireland and Portugal. We continued on then with our comparison with the results that we got in 2019, because it was unlikely that we'd see much change. There were 5 member states who told us that they had some changes to report in the test infrastructure. So we've detailed all of those in the annual report, but then compared with 2019, there's remained a level of belief that there was sufficiency in the test infrastructure and sufficiency in testing facilities to support the sector development. We did ask if there are any steps have been taken compared to last year to speed up consenting, and 1 country said that within the test site and outside test sites changes had been made to try and speed up consenting. That was Portugal. And then within the UK response, Wales said that they had taken steps as well. So that's why we have a star there next to the one for inside, that's Wales. But overall, the UK was a no for steps taken to speed up consenting. And there were no changes to the 2019 results around port facilities, grid access, and supply chain, with still that high level of sort of satisfaction across these areas, with no change to the answers that were given in 2019. So port facilities seen as good or adequate, grid access good or adequate, needing some upgrades, and the supply chain as part of a supply chain which is partially or well complemented by suppliers from other sectors. So this year we asked about the SRIA priority areas. So this is coming out of the publication in 2020 of ETIP's, ETIP Ocean's Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda for Ocean Energy. Activity was reported across all SRIA priorities, but in particular, we could see a lot of activity around experience in real sea conditions, in PTO and control systems, moorings and connections for floating devices, and novel wave devices. As Gianmaria said, the nice thing now is that we can look out over the whole 3 years of the project. 3 data points isn't really enough yet to confirm any trends, but we can certainly see some positive signs from the data we've been collecting over the 3 years. So the indicators are telling us that there's either remaining stable or slightly increasing in the areas of revenue support, in the areas of consenting times, supply chain, and significantly the number of member states who are reporting that they're funding TRL 7 and above projects. So certainly there's a lot to be positive about there in the metrics over 2018, 19, and 20. So a recap then on the member state survey for 2020 and our findings. It looks like the sector is continuing to be well supported for the reference year of 2020, but we have some challenges still in the data that we're trying to collect and analyze. So one is sometimes we're looking for the annual funding, but member states are having difficulty breaking down just for 1 year what could be multi-annual projects. So it's difficult to know the funding for 1 year when the funding could be spread across a couple of years. And what I pointed out on one of the slides as well, that it's likely there's an underestimate of the total value of member state support, budget and spend, just from the difficulty of reporting either with insufficient data or that the budget is part of an overall renewables budget. The annual report that I mentioned has been published on our website, has a lot more information than I've been able to go through here this morning, but I'd invite you to have a look at it. There is some other nice information around marine spatial plans, for example, which have been published in all but 1 member state. So Italy's is still pending publication, and all but 2 marine spatial plans include zones for ocean energy development. Those are Denmark and Spain, who said they didn't have a zone for OE development. And we found as well that there's no evidence yet of progress towards the creation of an investment fund for supporting deployments of ocean energy technology. I'll hand over to Ana just to stay on time. And as I say, OceanSET.eu is where you'll find the full publication of the annual report. Thanks, Gianmaria.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much for your very comprehensive presentation. And now we move to the other presentation, that is, the other aspects of the work done by OceanSET. So now we look at the private company, let's say, who are working on the ocean energy sector. Anna, you should be able to present. Yeah, we see your presentation. If you can just put, okay, it's perfect. Anna, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon or good morning. I am going to present I would like to see my presentation myself. I would like to present, the results of the developer survey that was carried out concerning the year 2020. 27 projects were identified in the first part of the survey, which went into the member states as valid to receive the developer survey. Those projects are the ones which concern device or subsystem development and refer to a technology which is in a higher technology level, their technology readiness level between 7 and 9. And of course, projects which were active in 20,000, because the purpose is to collect data for the year 2020. Member states answering the survey were 11, belonging to European and non-European partnering countries belonging to the implementation working group. In this presentation, we will make a short overview of the projects, then we present shortly the technology performance metrics, and then some opinion questions we have made on standardization, environmental, technical, and also suggestions we have collected from developers concerning further European community action in behalf of the development of the sector. So, overview of the projects. We have got, as answering the survey, 20 projects, mainly from wave, about the double of wave than from tidal. Among those projects, just 3 were concerning a subsystem, which is a project contributing for a device development project. All the remaining concerned the development of a device of converting ocean energy into electrical energy. Those which we will call whole system projects. Those whole system projects were further spread among different types of devices, which we classified as larger scale devices with a rated capacity higher than 0.1 megawatt, smaller scale devices with a rated capacity lower than 0.1 megawatt, and technology hybrids, which are combinations between wave or tidal devices with offshore wind or floating solar or some off-grid application of the energy produced at the sea. Those projects were all funded by public funder, by the public sector, either European funds or member state funds. We can see that most of the projects are funded by the member state, and in percentages which are indicated in those squares below. Between when public funded, it is between 40 and 100%, private funds between 5 and 60%, debt between 20 and 45%. For example, you can see in detail this data later on in the annual report. For example, a combination of member state and European funds only without private was found just in tidal, a combination of member state and private just in wave. Those projects are, most of them made, promoted just by one entity. Many others are promoted by a consortium in a partnership way, involving multiple member states. The organizations making the consortia are from different sectors: industrial research and development, academic research and development, manufacturing or marine operations, which can be just in isolation or combined. The most frequent combination is between industrial research and development and manufacturing, which can in turn be combined with the remaining 2. Those projects present technology transfer, not all of them, but some of them, mainly in the wave sector, from sectors as the on or offshore wind, composites, manufacturing, aerospace industry, industrial automation, and oil and gas sector. In 2020, Ocean has published the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, where some areas which were considered as prioritary for the development of the ocean energy sector were identified. And in this survey, we have asked those projects, higher TRL projects, to indicate which areas were addressed in their projects. They could select more than one, and we can see in this chart that almost all of them, in fact, are covered by those projects. As Rachel has mentioned, the most frequent technology we can find in tidal stream is horizontal axis turbine. This year, more technologies appeared other than the ones here indicated. Another one more frequent was found as being the tidal kite. In wave, the most frequent one continues to be point absorber, but also oscillating water column, oscillating wave surge converter, and attenuator. Those technologies are related to the installation technology, which is the most frequent, the floating one, mainly taut moored, also semi-taut moored, also slack moored, and also for other type of device, the fixed gravity base. Concerning technology performance, we must say that in order to try to uniformize the units in which the information was provided, and in order to put developers more comfortable in answering these questions, we have asked for information in terms of ranges. We were given a range of values, and developers were supposed to select the most appropriate range. Which means that we have to determine an average to be taken as the value corresponding to that answer. And in the end, these values were again averaged. We also, and because since many devices are still under deployment, not yet completely deployed, so not yet producing energy, we have asked the data in terms of target and achieved performance. Target means the performance which is expected to be achieved in the end of the project. In this table we can see data which corresponds to target data, because achieved data exists only in a short number of projects and would not be enough to be presented with the preservation of anonymity of the developers. So we can see that CAPEX is between 3 and 6.5 for large scale devices in tidal and wave. OPEX is the same this year, 0.5. Energy produced per year is between 2,000 and 3,000. Availability 78, and levelized cost of energy between 200 and 300. We have also to group devices concerning small scale among wave and tidal, because there was few data points and this was the only way to present information without compromising the confidentiality. But we can say, for example, that in the case of small scale, wave is having higher values than tidal, so the averages are skewed to the top part by the wave sector. CAPEX is 10, OPEX 1.2, energy per area 175, availability 90. And in the case of technology hybrids, the values between wave and tidal are quite balanced, almost in the similar range, meaning a CAPEX of 7, OPEX 0.3, energy per year much higher. We understand this energy per year produced by all the technology hybrid, not just by the waves part of it. Availability much higher, 92.5, and an expected LCOE of 36200. As you know, we have been accompanying this data along the 3 years of the project. This is data that was asked since the beginning of the monitoring exercise performed in this project. We can see here all the values which are presented in the annual report today delivered to the OceanSET site. There is no clear trend which can be explained, and I can develop more on this subject in the questions answer part and answering part if you wish. I must say that my feeling is that costs are decreasing, at least the expected costs are decreasing, and the achieved data we have got concerning projects which were delivering expected costs are consistent. Okay, as an example, why the values are a bit erratic is here. These are each group, as in the yellow lines shows, one group corresponds data coming from one device along the time. As you can see, for example, last year, the capex for wave was skewed to the bottom by a very short value, which now this year we can see that probably it was a unit's mistake. So and this which explains why the value is here. On the left, the device shows a device which is presenting a higher value, but this does not mean necessarily that the technology is increasing in cost. It just means that the might mean that the developer has gained experience and has made a better assessment of their expected costs. And for example, in the tidal sector, this year we can see here a very low value in this device, which is skewing the averages to the bottom. And because we have a few data points, this has an influence a strong influence in the average. And only next year, or we could see if the value will be confirmed. About opinion questions we have asked for developers. We can see here that they are performing, most of them, the certification of the devices through accredited certifications and test bodies, third-party application, and using relevant standards already. Not only yet European harmonized, but enough accepted, and a very high part by second part application. And we also asked about how beneficial will be other technical specifications, such as the one already established for design, resource characterization, acoustic characterization, and so on. And most of them agree they will be beneficial. And many of them are already engaged with the process of creating those specifications. Just to add some information, we must mention that last year, instead of technical, we have asked about environment standards, which were also considered relevant to the sector. Most of the developers will be willing to share data to help implementing those environmental standards. And many of them, all of them actually, have already benefited from the data which is already available. This year, we have asked, we gave developers the opportunity to present suggestions to the European Commission about what further action could it do to progress the sector. Many answers was provided, and they were all included in our reports to the Commission. They are here indicated. I will highlight just a few which seem to be more different from what is usually said, at least in the official channels. For example, in the tidal stream sector, there was suggestions for to implementing a simplified approval process for short-term trials of devices. More funding to put more devices in the order, namely a tidal project involving multiple partners. In spite of having strong technology conversions in tidal, new technologies or new solutions are still needed to widen deployment potential of this sector to new conditions of resources and costs so that a larger scale can be reached. It is important to develop a robust low-cost low-cost environmental monitoring system and support for hybrid projects. And in the case of wave, it was mentioned how useful would be when funding the main project also to map side projects which are associated to it to be leveraged and validated for the support already for small wave arrays and support applications for smaller scale wave energy, not just the device itself to be developed, but put more devices in the water and support for hybrid projects. And finally, it is curious to note that both wave and tidal sectors have mentioned the need to have some help on being introduced to energy and utilities companies to improving network and the contacts with future customers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ana, for your very interesting presentation. So now we have time to okay, let me just modify the sharing. Okay. So so now let's move to, let's say, the final part of this webinar that is just for Q&A, so for your questions. By the way, let me just say that in any case, if you are interested in this presentation, the results of our project and all the information about the set plan, you can just go to the OceanSET website. That is just the oceanset.eu, and you will just get all the information about the monitoring, let's say, analysis that OceanSET has done so far in the last 3 years. So I think that we can start, I mean, with questions from the audience. We have already received some questions, and I have a couple of questions for Rachel, one for Ana. Okay, let me just have a look. So the first question is for Rachel, and is I mean, just Rachel, you mentioned during your presentation that Denmark and Spain are the only member states who does not include ocean energy in their marine spatial plan. Is it correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So there are two questions around marine spatial plans. The first is, has your member state published one? And all have, apart from Italy's, which is still pending. And then the second part was, does that marine spatial plan include a zone for ocean energy development? And two came back and said, no. Denmark explained that there is a plan around renewable energy, but not specifically a zone for ocean energy development. And then Spain came back and said that there also wasn't an area classified as a ocean energy priority area or zone, but that there was no restriction on research and development projects, and there was a recommendation to use established research and development sites for ocean energy. So those were the responses we got back for Spain and Denmark.
Thank you, Rachel. And now we have questions for Ana. Ana, the question is, what is the typical capacity factor used for wave and tidal in LCOE calculation?
Sorry, I think this is a very good question. I think I have removed deadlines from this presentation to put the table able to fit in the in the space available in the PowerPoint. But it is in the annual report. I don't know it by hand. We have to see, sorry, but if you go to annual report, you will see it. This year we have not calculated it because we have understood that it will be a figure that could be more or less determined from the other information which is available. In the previous two years, we have asked it directly to the developers, but not in 2020, and in part because of that, and in part because we can deduce it from the remaining data. It is not included in this year, but the previous data is in the table which is in the annual report. So at the moment I would have to go there to remember, but so please do it for me and go to the table to get the value. I don't know it in my hand, sorry, at the moment.
Okay. Okay, by the way, all this information can be easily, I mean, get from the OceanSET website. So you can just download the previous, let's say, report that are even more, let's say, comprehensive compared to this, I mean, presentation. Now we have also a questions, maybe for Rachel, but also Anna. I mean, this is something that is related to what is happening in Ukraine. And so the question is, after the Ukrainian invasion, where the social and political issues have made such a significant impact, what is sensible to rethink about the LCOE? I mean, just thinking in a sort of additional metric such the social cost of energy. So just if we can try to think a different cost of energy. So if I understand well, I mean, they are saying maybe the cost of energy could be more high than what we have I mean, indicated so far for the ocean energy, just because maybe we need more renewable energies and to be also safe in Europe in terms of energy production. So what is your point of view, Rachel, about this, I mean, this question?
Yeah, it's a very difficult one, and unfortunately we don't know how things are going to pan out over the next days or weeks, let alone the next year or two. And we, after this launch, will be having another meeting with member state representatives and regional representatives. And we know from just some interactions we've had with them that they're thinking about these things as well at the moment and trying to, you know, think about their policy as we kind of face some new challenges that we hadn't been expecting. So unfortunately, I don't really have an answer to the question. I think it's a little bit too early to say, but the one thing that we can say is that there are positive signs in this survey and over the last 3 years towards, you know, this goal that the European Commission has of making Europe a low carbon economy. There are certainly signs that that is a reality and hopefully can be accelerated.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Rachel. Another, let's say, questions for Anna about confidentiality. I mean, so we know that it's sometimes difficult to get information from industries or private company who are, I mean, working on the ocean energy sector. Can we say something more about the confidentiality of the data that they can provide to us, or they have been already provided to us? I mean, just to say to the people that, I mean, all the confidentiality measurements have been taken into account. I mean, you can say something about that.
Yes, we have been very careful about that. We remove indication of the company which is providing data, and we do not use data from which we have only one data point. And in fact, the number of answers has been increasing along the 3 years of the project. We continue with few data points, because other thing that we know been noticing is that more small wave projects, small scale wave projects have appeared, even in tidal, either in tidal and wave sectors, and more hybrid projects have appeared. So we have more projects, but they are also more spread. So we continued with not so few, but still in few data points in each part of the whole system projects. But I think it is very good to have more answers from developers, in fact. And we have been very careful not to frighten them. For example, sometimes we will like to go back and ask to confirm data values, but we don't want to be annoying. But I think that this was a learning process for both of us, and we hope that more monitoring exercises can continue to happen in the future, because this information is important. It's possible to be obtained. This data we are providing is estimated, but in spite of that, I think it is relevant, and it is an indication of what is going on in the sector. And we can see a progress from out of it, because in the beginning, the values were much higher, many of them, than the ones which are appearing now. So I think that in spite the trends are not identified in the averages that we have to publish, I think there is a positive trend regarding the indicators we address in almost all of them. But let's see if we can progress with the monitoring exercise, which has been very good. And it's good to have this communication channel for the Commission and for the developers.
Yeah, yes, I totally agree with you. So the message is, if you provide us with your data and reliable data, we can, gather this information, send this information to the Commission. The Commission can send, around new policy about ocean energy. So please try to assist the OceanSET, but also the SET plan, the implementation working, because with your information, we can progress all together on the ocean energy sector. I think that we are, we reached at the end of this webinar. I really say thank you to Ana and Rachel for their very nice presentation about the ocean energy sector in Europe. What I can say to the attendees is thank you for attending this webinar. Please follow the OceanSET news on the website, also the SET news, and maybe we will recombine more or less in 1 year if a new European project could support again the implementation working group on the ocean energy. So that's all from our side. Bye. Thank you for attending. Ciao.